Sound design.
So how do you measure an EQ plus a full range speaker, and what does that look like in the room? So at this point we've measured a microphone cable, an EQ, a full range speaker in the room, and a sub in the room. Now let's put the EQ and the full range speaker together and just see what that looks like. So as we're taking small steps forward and just practicing at home, I feel like this is the next logical step. We measured just the speaker by itself. We put the speaker in a bunch of different locations. We moved the microphone all around the room, and we sort of just observed the measurement to see what sort of trends we could see. What can we learn from just moving things around and looking at the graph? And now we're getting better and better at just reading the data and seeing what's there and seeing how the data correlates to where things are in the room. So in this next step, we'll just connect the EQ and see what that looks like. So just to review, the way I have this routed in the X32 is that I have the output going to my speaker coming from matrix 1, and then I have the reference output coming out of aux 6, but it's pre-EQ, okay? That's why it's slightly red here, and X32 calls that input low cut. We should be able to turn this on, and this should look pretty much like the speaker we measured earlier, except now it's in a slightly different location. You can see the speaker is lower, it's just on top of the sub, and then I have the microphone over here. There's an obstruction in the way because there's a little light back here, and there's probably going to be some reflections off of the wall. Great, so there's my speaker in my room, and obviously when I talk, it messes up the measurement. But what I can start doing now is just opening up my EQ. I can pull it down here. And I can just start adding in some filters to see the results on the amplitude. Okay, what does this shape on the EQ look like on the actual speaker in the room? Okay, and after you play around with that a little bit, then you might want to switch around to just looking at the phase trace. So I'll put the phase trace up here and go back to the EQ. Reset this. Now let's see what happens. Okay, interesting. It changes around a little bit when I add a filter in. And it gets messed up when I start talking. Okay, so it seems to add some delay and change the phase around that frequency whenever I move these filters around. So again, these are just things to observe as you're playing around with this. And then you might want to rearrange your windows so that you can kind of look at all of this interact at the same time. See the amplitude down here. I'll put it back up like this. Amplitude up here, phase down here. And as we play around with this, we kind of start getting used to like these gross, squiggly, weird lines, right? I might take this away if I don't need it right now and have even more real estate. All right, so that is measuring a speaker with an EQ in a room. And in the next video, I want to talk about how to identify a comb filter, because you may have noticed that there's a lot of peaks and valleys up here, and we want to think about what we actually have control over with our EQ.
Sound design.